When you think of crime in the Elder Scrolls, you may first think to the time that you nudged a pewter cup and summoned the telepathically connected Imperial legions down upon you, threatening you to pay the fine or serve your sentence. No explanations will be taken. If you refuse either, then you will pay with your blood. Your mind also may take you to the Thieves Guild, a merry band of thieves with various established connections and enterprises, or perhaps you instead think of the Dark Brotherhood, the assassins summoned by the Black Sacrament, willing to kill any target of your choosing for a price. Now, when you get down to it, these factions are simply just a thieving faction with some nocturnal flavor and an emo guild of edgy assassins, but not all criminals in Tamriel are of such a general profession. Many are culturally bound criminal organizations that have causes or motives that are not simply money-making. The Renridra Kryn, for example, are a long-lived Khajiiti criminal organization that in the Third Era proclaimed dedication to reclaiming areas of Cyrodiil that they believe rightfully belonged to elsewhere, so it's a nationalistic cause. However, as much as I love the Khajiit, I am not here to talk about them and their criminal organizations. Instead, as a Dunmophile, I'm going to tell you the tale about one of the cruelest crime syndicates of Tamriel, a faction that so perfectly exemplifies the worst aspects of Dunmerry culture. Welcome to Fudge Muppet, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Scott, and today I'm going to tell you about the infamous Camonna Tong. The Camonna Tong are slavers, murderers, extortionists, everything a vile crime syndicate can be. They don't like outlanders, especially ones who cut into their profits. These are the words of Varar Vendu, an ex-Camonna Tong member. Varar told his grueling story of experiences that caused his fork-in-the-road moment in the book The Lure of the Camonna Tong. I'm writing this for the ones who have already ventured off that moral path, those that walk the thin line between wrong and right, the ones with emptied bellies and emptier coffers, who might see the Camonna Tong as a viable option. To you I say, keep reading. Sure, the Camonna Tong has stability, a steady stream of income is a hard thing to turn down, and they've got structure to boot. They'll lure you in with the possibility of glory, of command, of rising through the ranks, and sure, what they do is far from legal, but if you're already leaning in that direction, wouldn't you rather be in good company? It didn't take much sweet talking before I signed right up, and at first life was good. Extorting the rich flatheads who had lorded above me all my life? My pleasure. A few robberies, a few break-ins, nothing I wasn't used to, and sure, we talked big about driving away the Outlanders, of taking Vardenfell back for the Dark Elves, but I'll be honest, nothing made me question what I was doing. Nothing, that is, until some Argonian seamstress got a little uppity. Now let me interject here with some extra context. You see, the Camonna Tong are not only a criminal organization involved in all manner of illegal activities, including robbery, break-ins, extortion, kidnapping, beatings, murder, and slave trafficking, they are also a very nationalistic and xenophobic organization with a livid hatred for Outlanders and non-Dunmer. As a brief aside, interestingly, in our real world, a Tong was a type of secret organization made up of Chinese immigrants in the USA, most associated with organized crime. And interestingly, the Camorra are a long-lived mafia organization from the Campania region of Italy. If you were to swap those two R's with two N's and mash those words together, then you get Camonna Tong, a name clearly inspired by real-world criminal organizations. However, I do want to throw out there that within the Elder Scrolls universe itself, the word Tong translates to guild. The Morag Tong, for example, translates to Forester's Guild. As far as I'm aware, there is no in-universe translation for Camonna, so I'd love to hear your guesses below, but let's get back to the story of Varar Vendu for the moment. Oh, it was the talk of the town. Some scaled Enwire had the gall to start up her own shop and be successful with it to boot. She was taking away good business from Dark Elves. That's what she was doing. Taking away gold from our mothers and sisters. So we did what the Camonna Tong does best. We made her pay. The kidnapping was easy. Yeah, her shop was doing well, but she was still an Argonian. I don't think we saw a single guard as we slipped into her house, not in that part of town. We tied her up and gagged her before she had a chance to cry for help, laughing like it was some big joke. Young hotheads who had had too much to drink. I thought we were just going to scare her, set her straight, make her realize that she couldn't think herself better. I started to sober up when the beatings began. First a slap to her face, but that quickly turned to punches and kicks. They joked about how she could take it, how Argonian's skin was so thick no one would even see the bruises. I can still hear her muffled cries along with their laughter. I just watched as the beatings became more intense, as blood started dribbling from her gagged mouth. I wasn't a stranger to violence, or truly opposed to it given my line of work. But there was something about tying up this old Argonian and beating her bloody, kicking her as she fell to the floor. My throat grew tight as I watched, motionless. No one seemed to notice my lack of enthusiasm, so enraptured in the righteous justice they gladly doled out. Someone pulled a dagger and made the casual remark, "You know, it's pretty hard to sew without fingers." Suddenly, I was wide awake. I wish I could tell you that I stopped them, said something clever, did something brave, but the truth is, I walked out. I left that room, that town, that life, not with my head held high, but broken, defeated, thinking of that poor Argonian's eyes filled with terror, so different from my own, yet so alike. I don't know if they went through with it. If there's a fingerless beggar somewhere who sees my face in her nightmares, I don't think I'll ever try to find out. So next time you think of the Camonna Tong, of the glamour and the gold, you think of how easy it is for your crooked morals to slip away entirely, how big talk and some drink can lead you down a darker path than you ever realized you were capable of, how easy it is to say nothing, and how much easier to just join along. Without a doubt, they are a truly cruel organization. This was just but one example of their crimes that have been performed throughout the ages, considering their organization has been active since at least the mid-Second Era through to the end of the Third Era. That's multiple centuries, if not a millennium. I think it's reasonable to assume they gained a lot of their initial footing in Morrowind during the signing of the Ebonheart Pact, the very first time in history that the powers of Morrowind agreed to the abolition of slavery as well as an alliance with foreign peoples. Many Dunmer would be ropeable at the idea of joining the pact, and furious at the idea that the powers that be turned their back on cultural values and practices maintained for thousands of years. House Telvanni even outright refused to join the Ebonheart Pact, and many others I imagine would have only begrudgingly done so. Ultimately, this event in history would create a niche, one that the Camonna Tong could fill. The anti-Outlander rhetoric became dogma within the Camonna Tong. Many Dunmer would join as they were sold grand ideas of Dunmer nationalism and fundamentalism. The Ebonheart Pact would eventually end, but centuries later Tiber Septim would conquer Morrowind via signing the armistice, and as you would expect with the Camonna Tong, they did not take this cosmopolitan regime very well. Their lands were now filled with imperial forts, foreign guilds, and outlanders, all talking points they could use to recruit the disenfranchised members of Dunmer society. This syndicate has surely taken many young men and women with the allure of riches, strength, and a return to glory, only in reality to turn them into thugs, brutes, and life-takers. The Camonna Tong situation in the year 427 of the Third Era, 6 years before the Oblivion crisis, was quite an interesting one. We all know how Hlalu benefited most from the signing of the armistice and induction of Morrowind to the Imperial realms, and there are some interesting complications about their current rulership. Duke Vadim Dren is Duke of Vvardenfell, an imperial title granted to him, and he is also the Grand Master of House Hlalu. He is a respectable and pragmatic man. Ask him about Morrowind and he will say this: Morrowind is a peculiar mixture of Dunmer tradition and imperial modernism. The council system of government works well, and the temple provides shelter, education, and health for all. At the same time, the legions and magistrates guarantee rule of law and justice, and free trade makes us prosperous. Looking forward, we must overcome lingering resentments by engaging the great houses in the creation of a new Morrowind, rooted in Dunmer tradition but incorporating the best features of imperial civil society. He is clearly a forward thinker and a character of compromise, however the same cannot be said for his younger brother, Orvis Dren, who just so happens to be the kingpin of the Camonna Tong. Vadim Dren is aware that his brother is the leader of this crime syndicate, and he would even ask you to spare his life if possible during your questing to become Grandmaster of House Hlalu in the Elder Scrolls III Morrowind, if you chose to do so. Orvis Dren himself owns the Dren plantation and is highly influential with House Hlaalu, despite not being a member himself. He actually controls two of Hlaalu's councillors, Valanda Omani and Navina Ulis. As leader of the Camonna Tong, he heads many smuggling operations of skooma and moon sugar, and he is the kind of man to not let familial relations get in the way of good business. You may find a note written by Orvis sent to the Ieneth brothers. It says, "You have served me well over the years. My brother has been trying to stop our business. We've lost over half our shipments recently. The Duke may be my brother, but if he keeps interfering, I'm afraid he must be killed." You can gather the kind of person that Orvis Dren is, but to take it up a notch, I also need to tell you that Orvis Dren is in alliance with Dagoth and the 6th House. He says this, "You want peace? Like the peace of the grave we've had since the tribunal betrayed us and signs the armistice? Dagoth has made me a better offer. The 6th House will rise again and crush the Empire and those smug hypocrites in the tribunal." The Camonna Tong's extensive smuggling operations and criminal connections embedded within society would be invaluable to the 6th House, assisting in the spread of their influence via the ash statues, idols that contained the corrupting power of Dagoth. Despite their clear ideological differences, it's important to note that the Dren brothers both possess a strong ambition and willingness to compromise, albeit in different ways. Duke Vadim Dren is willing to compromise traditions and integrity to work with foreign controlling powers, whereas Orvis Dren is willing to compromise all forms of legality, working against the law to further his personal ambitions and goals of a restored Morrowind, so much so that he would throw his lot in with Dagoth himself. Both personify the signature House Hlaalu traits, adaptable and opportunistic. At the end of the day, Vadim Dren clearly has the moral high ground though. To run an organization such as the Camonna Tong, one would have to be particularly accepting of unrivaled cruelty and deception. The fate of this callous crime syndicate is unconfirmed, but given the Oblivion crisis and the eruption of Red Mountain, combined with the Argonian invasion, it is possible that they no longer exist. In some ways though, they would be amenable to the current reclamations-oriented traditional Dunmerry government of 4th Era Morrowind. What do you think happened? Ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I know I enjoyed making it, and I'll take any opportunity to talk more about the Dunmer. Like the video, subscribe for more Elder Scrolls content. Thanks again, my name's Scott, and I'll be back to nerd out with you again next time.